In this video, I want to go over some basic scripting in Unity that includes variables and data types, and we'll do that in the context of moving a sprite in random directions. As you can see on my screen here, I already have a basic scene set up, a basic project set up, where I have a scenes folder, a scripts folder, and a sprites folder, all in my assets folder. My sprites folder contains a lot of different sprites that I can do a lot with, make a lot of different games with. But the only sprite on the screen in the scene right now is the asteroid sprite, as well as the game main camera is the other game object that's currently in the scene. If we look at the asteroid sprite, you can see that it already has a script attached to it, and I already made it a rigid body with the gravity scale set to 0, which means once I hit the play button, it does not move, and that's because the gravity scale is set to 0. On my machine, the scripts open up in Microsoft Visual Studio. Yours might open up in MondoDevelop or some other text editor. So this is a little bit more than a typical skeleton. I've added a comment on the top, and this comment here to create the variables. Now a lot of this I'd like to do pretty fast, but you can slow this down whenever you want. So I'm going to use the public keyword to make sure that the variables I want to be able to access from the inspector, I can access. Right? INT stands for integer, so the xspeed variable is going to be an integer, which is a whole number value. I copied and pasted that line and made another variable for y speed. So x speed would be my horizontal speed, y speed, vertical speed, using an integer value. My next set of variables here, I'm going to make a Boolean variable, right? Bool. It's an on-off switch. Call that random x. And I'll set that equal to false so that it's off at the start. And then a couple more variables to determine the min x speed and the max x speed. So again, I'll copy and paste to make things go a little bit faster. Max x speed, and that's for my x, my horizontal. I'll copy and paste this whole group of statements for the y. Just gotta be very careful that you make the appropriate changes. Min x, max x, min y, max y, random x, random y. And then I need to access the rigid body component of that sprite, rigid body 2D, and I'll just name it RB for rigid body. And then I will start to create the script that is inside the start function. First, I want to check if the checkbox for random x is on or off. The shortcut statement of if random x is the same as saying if random x equals true. If that is true, I'm going to set the speed to a random number, right, between the range, so random.range, of the min x speed and the max x speed. And spelling does count. Upper and lower case do count. And I'm going to copy and paste this conditional block. And again, make sure that where you need a uppercase or lowercase y is correct. Otherwise, we might get an error or something else, and we'll have to fix it, which is no big deal. I'm going to create a vector2, which stores two values, one for x, one for y. I'll call that new speed. And I'll set the x component equal to whatever random value I got for x speed, and then copy and paste that for the y. Copy and paste that, change the x's to y, and then I'm going to use that in the rigid body component of the sprite. So RB, which is our rigid body, get component, rigid body 2D. Again, syntax is really important. You got to follow the rules if you want everything to work as you hope it will. And RB.addForce and the vector2 of new speed. Return to Unity window. Take a look at the difference now that's in the script component of the asteroid. All the variables that I made public I now have access to. So I can turn on random x and random y and put a range of -100 to +100 for each of those min, max ranges. So now when I hit play, the asteroid moves in a random direction. The fact that it moves to the left and up means I have a negative x value, see there, -84, and a positive y value of 52. If it moved to the right, I'd have a positive x value. If it moved down, I'd have a negative y value. So let's see what we get one more time. There we go. A little better, -44. Okay, so I'm going to update this script a little bit by getting not only a random speed for a random direction, but a random size. So I'm going to take these 3 lines of code again, because I like to not type as much as I don't have to. Name this variable scale object. Again, it's going to be Boolean checkbox, set it to false. And I'm going to change these to say float and have decimal values. This is going to be min scale and max scale. And then one more float. So I'll just copy and paste this. This last one, which is going to be private. Scale them out. Back down in the start function, I'm going to select one of these conditionals, paste it in, change this to be scale object, change this to be scale amount, and the range is going to be between min scale and max scale. One more thing I need to do with that is in the transform of this GameObjects inspector, change the local scale value to a new vector3. And the reason why it's a vector3 because even though we're still in a 2D game, there still is a z value, a z scale, a z depth. So we need 3 values. I'm going to say scale amount for both the x and the y, so the asteroid maintains its proportional shape. And for the z, just the default 1, put the semicolon at the end. Now back into Unity, and I don't see those fields in there because I have some type of error. And I'm going to look see if I spelled anything wrong. Yep, I have an E in there, local scale, that's incorrect. Hopefully that disappears after a few seconds, and it does. And there's the min scale and max scale fields here. Turn that on, change this to a really small value like 0.05, and the max scale, I don't really want them to get bigger, but I'll go to 1.2. Pretty small asteroid, and it's moving down. All right, this is all very good. Now, what can we do with this? Well, I want to be able to have more than one asteroid without having to go into the sprites folder and bring out more asteroids. Make a new folder here. Call it prefabs. And I'm going to drag the asteroid from the hierarchy panel and drop it in there. Now I have a prefab. Notice in the hierarchy panel, the asteroid sprite text turns blue here. And in the prefab here, it has everything that I need for that, except what I'm going to do now is make changes. Let's just see, let's see how we can get more than one to come out. So first thing I'm going to do is remove this sprite from here. So my asteroid sprite is gone. And I want to be able to create new sprites new asteroid sprites, or any type of sprite, using this other script we're going to write right now. So in my scripts folder, new C# script, we'll call this spawn object. We'll go right into the start function, and I'm going to use this command called invoke repeating. And what that will do, we'll kind of keep calling a function. So the name of the function here in quotes, create object. And this is whatever name you want it to be that follows the rules, that makes sense to you. I'll just put in the actual values of 1. So after I click the play button, after 1 second, I put the F in there for float, I'll get my first asteroid. And then every second after that, I will get another asteroid. I'm just going to change the name of update to create object. I'm going to do the one statement that creates the object. So instantiate. So what I want to instantiate here is first the local name of the object, and I need to create that one though, so I'll do that retroactively. GOBJ for game object. And I want to call it GOBJ though. New vector 3 for those 3 values for its position. Actually, I'm going to put them all at the origin. Right, so they all start in the middle. And then outside of that, the last value has to do with rotation. Right? So quaternion.identity. And this will actually ensure that it does not rotate. So save this. Go back to Unity. Oh, sorry, I didn't finish the game object part of this. So let's go back up to the top here and say public. This is very important. Sorry, I missed it. Game object, uppercase, because that's the type of object it is. And then the name I gave it is GOBJ, like that. So what I could do is just attach that script to the camera. Or what typically is done is an empty game object is created, like so it's a game manager. And the game object is empty. It's at the origin. We can make it look like something by going over here into the inspector and selecting any one of these little icons. But I want that, I'll put it over here. I want that to be my game manager. Again, no spaces. And I will add the script spawn object to that. Now the key there is the field for our game object. Right now it says none. And in there is where we're going to put our prefab. So whether it's an asteroid or another sprite you're using, you just simply drag that and drop it in there, and you can see what it's going to instantiate based on the scripts that I created. Play. Count a second. There's an asteroid. There's another asteroid. There's an asteroid. They all have different directions, different sizes, and different speeds. It's a really tiny one. Now you'll notice that they're touching each other, but nothing's happening. So I can go back to the actual prefab and add another component. This time I'm going to add a circular collider. And you can see here I've added it, but I don't really know the size of the collider. So I'm going to bring out one asteroid. And you can see the collider is a little bigger than the asteroid. So I'm going to edit that and use those handles to make the collider a little smaller. Turn off edit collider. And then there's a button on top here to apply to all of them. Now I can remove this one again from the scene. And now you'll see they'll start to collide with each other. There, see, just a quick movement there. Those two bumped off each other. And what'll make it even more interesting is if I speed up the spawn delay. So instead of 1 second, let's make it 0.5 seconds, so they will instantiate much quicker. Right now they're all bouncing into each other, as you can see. And you can play around and have fun. And you can see it's creating all these asteroid sprite clones of each other, but none of them are going away, and that's not good. So let's do one more thing and clean that up. So back into the move object script, I'm going to change update here to on became invisible. So once it leaves the visibility or the view of the camera, we want this to be destroyed, so it's no longer in memory. And that's simply the destroy command and the word game object, lowercase g. And this word game object, lowercase g, refers to the object that the script is attached to. So in this case, the asteroid sprite or asteroid prefab. So I'm getting a bunch of clones here, and they should start disappearing as they leave the screen. So you see that I'm not getting a big longer list as some are created, some are being destroyed. And you get an interesting effect here when they're bouncing into each other. So that covers some basic scripting and some basic data types in this particular script of making a sprite move on its own and how you might control the direction and the size of that.